Right.
Well, good evening. Who's going to talk first? I don't know. It looks like it's me. This is the new Punthly Show from the UK Pun Off, where what we do for a whole hour is look at Julian just doing little bobbly heads. Fantastic. No, this is basically just a kind of... I'd say I'll edit that out, but I'm not. That's probably going to be the highlight of the show, to be honest. We're just going to sort of have a look back over the UK Pun Off and sort of puns in general over the last month, because it's just this month that we've been back, really, isn't it, Julian? Or is it? Yeah. Julian will find his voice. It takes him a while to get going, but once he finds his voice, we'll probably not be able to shut him up. So we'll have a look at some of our sort of favourite tweets that we've seen over social media. We'll have a little exclusive clip from the World of Wordcraft show, which was an exclusive ticketed show. We'll tell you about the upcoming shows on the UK Pun Off. We'll probably mention the paypal.me/punoff address, but 75 times. And yeah, we'll just have a bit of fun. We're going to have a celebrity interview. When I say celebrity, pun celebrity interview, and some sort of quick fire questions. Just a lot of fun. I've been talking for far too long. Julian, how are you doing?
There you go.
There you go. Right. See you next month.
Yes, by the way, you probably already guessed it, but Ian does all the hard work, and I eventually turn up and try and be charismatic. That's sort of my role. I say try, occasionally, and I just flash me sebaceous cyst now and again, you know what I mean? There you go, in case you think I'm getting too big for my boots.
Oh, you pull it off well, Julian. And you're quite charismatic.
Hey.
So how have you found the last month of the UK Pun Off? We've had a whole load of, because what we did was like a show every week, UK Pun Off, but now we're doing it every 4 weeks or month. I'll edit that bit out. No, I won't, because I can't be arsed. He says I do hard work, but I get away with as little as I can. But now we've got a whole load of shows that we do in the UK Pun Off. So what have you thought about the new shows? They're shit. No, Julian, they're not.
Because I was at McGinty or whatever he's called, come and have a word. What's he called?
Yeah, McGinty.
I'll be honest, the first UK Pun Off back, it's not I didn't enjoy it, but I felt I was a bit cold, a bit rusty. But I did enjoy the second one, the one that was on last week. I think the World of Wordcraft is interesting. There's some really funny one-liners and puns on there, and we just need more people to know about it, really. So hopefully, people will start sharing the links. It was good to see that, we don't get hundreds and hundreds of viewers, but it was good to see how the loyal fan base came back for the UK Pun Off. Yeah. And Ian's been a bit modest, but Ian's new baby, Outpunched, that did really well. Was that on last Sunday?
That was last Sunday the 23rd, I think it was.
Yeah, so that went really well. And we were just saying off camera that when Ian makes a monster out of it and it's really popular, I'll be going, oh, please, Ian, can I be on the show? And he'll be like, no, you didn't come on the first one. You don't get to come on these ones now. That's successful. Please, Ian, please.
When you just said what we're talking about off camera, I thought you were going to be talking about the person with the good poster. But no, we'll leave that for perhaps another time.
But no, I think I'm intrigued to see how this magazine show is going to look, because I think the way Ian's put some hard work in behind the scenes, it should be quite an interesting show. When does it go out? Just remind people. Oh, they'll be watching it. They'll be watching it.
Just
now. Reminding it
right now. It's coming out right now. The power of pre-recorded fucking streams, whatever. Yeah. Because we usually do this stuff live, don't we? We're kind of used to doing live stuff.
Yes, we do. Yes, sorry. We're hardly Chris Evans and Gabby Roslin, are we? We're not the power presenters of the early 90s. I don't know why I said presenters that way. Presenters.
To be honest, we're more fucking Zig and Zag, man.
Oh, did you hear about Zig and Zag?
I didn't, Julian, no.
After their telly career, they've turned into hardened criminals. because Zig and Zag couldn't go straight.
Welcome to the Punthly. It's only taken us 5 minutes, and that's our first joke. So yeah, fucking cracking stuff. Batting it out the park, Mr. Lee, as usual. So what are we going to do first then, Julian? What's our first feature of this Punthly magazine?
I tell you what we should do, Ian. You've done a bit of research on Twitter, and you've been looking for the 3 best jokes you've seen on Twitter in the last week. Why don't you show good people what you found?
Yeah, well, I mean, Twitter's always full of kind of like good jokes. Some original, some ones you've heard before, and rip-offs. Your man's over there.
You heard from my solicitor in the morning, young man.
No, I was complimenting you or commiserating with you, if you like. But anyway, ones that I've found over the last sort of few days, there was this one from, it's a new name on me. I don't know about you, Julian. Alec Machnick.
Oh, I think I've seen the name. I don't know who it is, but I think I've seen the name.
Yeah, I thought the cast were crazy when they decided to eat all of Nora Batty's mint sweets on the set of The Last of the Summer Wine. But it turns out they were, in fact, Compos Mentos.
Yeah. Latin punchlines, ladies and gentlemen. There you go.
Indeed. There you go. So I really liked that one. I thought it was a really kind of good joke there. Paul Eggleston had another one.
He's good for a joke, definitely.
He's good. He comes up with quite a lot of stuff that I see on Twitter regularly that tickles me old funny bone. His one was, I'm feeling a bit flat at the moment. I might make a coffee. That should liven me up this afternoon. Percolator. No, I've only got the instant stuff.
I think I'm right in saying that Paul Eggleston's actually got a personal account and this Here Comes Pun account.
Right.
So I would double check both those accounts for jokes because he does really write some good jokes.
Yeah, certainly does. And the last one that we've got for this Punthly fucking social media Twitter fucking joke pun thing is from Uncle Tog or Tog 1989 or 1989. As
I was going to say you pronounced that wrong. Tog 1989.
The UK pun off is Tog 1989. He said, I sent an email to the leader of the House about air pollution in London. To Jacob re Smog. Now, I don't know if you agree. I think that's definitely one that's better read than said.
Read than said. I think you're right. That's the thing about Twitter is you can hit them with a double barrel, can't you? You can hit them with a... So I'm trying to get my glasses so they don't look like I'm doing an Eric Morecambe impression. Sometimes they're good read out, as in read in your head, and other times they're better if you read them out loud.
Yeah.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
I'd buy that for $1.
And talking of Twitter, you found those 3 jokes there, Ian. What we're going to do, everyone, by the way, is every month we're going to do a Twitter recommendation. So obviously anyone would put a joke on, we recommend you follow those. Yeah. We recommend you follow Ian. He's on that side this day, and we recommend you follow me. But this is our monthly recommendation of someone you absolutely must follow, and it's Andy Ryan. His Twitter handle is @It'sAndyRyan. He writes some great jokes. I actually tried to get him on the UK Pun Off about 6 months ago, but he said he couldn't commit to a Sunday night. But he writes some great jokes, so well worth a follow. And you'll definitely get a good laugh out of Andy Ryan, definitely. So that's our Twitter recommendation of the month. We should have a little jingle. Twitter recommendation of the month. La 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 la.
You know what? I'm just going to clip what you said there because as soon as you said that it was very jingly.
It's just his tight pants.
Your jingle balls. Yes, so that's our Twitter recommendation of the month.
Twitter recommendation of the month. La 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 la.
I'm turning that into something, man. I don't know.
Put auto-tune on it. With a new Drake single.
Oh, you contemporary fucker, you. Right, well, as Julian was saying earlier, we've got World of Wordcraft as one of our new shows. Our next one is coming up on the 9th of June. We've just had one just a couple of weeks ago. Was it the 12th of May? Maybe? That sounds right. Everyone that was there really enjoyed it. It was done through Zoom, so we could sort of hear the audience reaction. But here are a few snippets from some of the jokes that were done during that show.
See a circus on the banner over the door. The banner over the door. Where have you been gigging? Never mind. Not a circus. Why would they do circus? Because I've just seen the strong man outside. The strong man. Yes, he's been using steroids to build up his arms and legs. Anabolic? No, just his arms and legs.
There's no butter in buttermilk. There's no jelly in jellyfish. And don't even get me started on kumquat.
But when you tell someone you've been stung by a jellyfish, they always say the same thing. They always say, well, if you've been stung by a jellyfish, first thing you got to do is pee on it. And I said, well, that's really hard. They're such fast swimmers. I'd never be able to.
Actually, the first time I saw my wife, I thought, there is one foxy lady. Well, it was late at night, and she was going through the bins.
Oh.
I'll talk about this. I'm nearly 40 now. I'm 42, and it's a bad age, right? It's a terrible age. Like 42 is as far away from nappies as you can get in either direction. It's just the worst age.
Yeah, that's the kind of laughter you get from World of Wordcraft.
Yeah,
can I do from every other UK Pun Off show?
Can I just mention something, Ian? Right? Have we got any UK Pun Off fridge magnets left?
We've got a few.
Right, I'm going to give one out. I know I didn't plan this, but I'm going to give one out to the people who answer this question correctly. When's the next World of Wordcraft, Ian? Will you just remind people?
The 9th of June.
Right, the 9th of June. Why is that date really important to me and other Geordies? There you go. Do some homework. Why is the 9th of June really important to people like me and other Geordies? Get your answers into the UK Pun Off page on Twitter at UK Pun Off. And the first one to get it right, just the first one, first come, first served, will win a UK Pun Off fridge magnet. Ooh. I can see Ian's trying to research it now. Don't tell him, though, Ian. That would defeat the purpose a bit, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Anyway.
Have you got the answer?
I don't know. I'll type it in the private chat.
Type it in private chat. I'll tell you if he's right, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not the right thing, but is it something?
Yes. I don't know what spelling that is like, but yes.
It was just, oh, yeah.
That is, he's got it really, isn't it? Did you know that, or have you just looked it up?
Fucking looked it up, man. I thought at first I thought it's when you claimed your independence from Scotland, but obviously not.
9th of June, it was the last time a woman found us attractive. 1987. Right, yes. Why does the date 9th of June, why is it important to me and other Geordies? There you go. There's today's question.
Yeah, and a little bit of an explanation as well. Don't just put fucking the day Steve Bruce gets sacked or whatever. Just you need to say why. You need to say why.
Oh, actually, ladies and gentlemen, I told Ian this just before it came on air, and he's not sure about it, but we're going to go with it.
Right.
Every month, we're going to take turns asking each other 3 questions. Now, they're not awkward questions, but they're sort of someone has to give an opinion or someone has to say something that is a tiny bit controversial. Not too controversial. We've been there. We don't want to go there again. But every month, when we take turns, the next person has to ask slightly more difficult, slightly more awkward questions, and we'll just see how it goes. Tonight's not that awkward, so don't worry, Ian, okay? They're not that awkward. Okay. First question. If you had to live without iron brew or whiskey, which would you live without? See, you can't even handle that.
Now, is it new recipe iron brew or the old recipe?
Well,
if it's new recipe iron brew, then iron brew can.
Old recipe then. Old recipe iron brew or whiskey.
Whiskey.
Whiskey. By the way, I work with a Scottish lad, okay, and it's supposed to be the last Friday of the month, but because we're working from home tomorrow, the last Thursday of the month, we get free lunch. Yeah, so the boss just takes a company credit card out and he only gets Greg's, don't get too excited. And the Scottish guy the day ordered what he got, then what do you want to drink? And he asked for Iron Brew. He couldn't get any more Scottish. He wanted Iron Brew with his bait. So that was the first question. So he could live without Iron Brew, old recipe, but not whiskey. The next one, you can kill one person, Boris Johnson or Brendan Rodgers. Who do you kill?
Boris,
okay.
Why would I want to kill Brendan Rodgers?
I don't know. Are you not a Rangers fan?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he won. Well, let's just say they would have won 10 on the trot if he was still a manager, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Well, it would have been 9.75, but that's splitting hairs.
And then the last question, it's not too difficult, but you have to give, what is the most overrated film of all time?
So, this is one.
Film that, you can't just say a random film that's a bit obscure. It has to be, obviously, one of the big guns. What is the most overrated film of all time?
Apocalypse Now.
Oh, I've not seen it yet. It's one of those that's been on the list for ages, but I've never seen it.
It's good, but it is long, and I love Marlon Brando, don't get me wrong, but it's just no.
Okay, right. So they were sort of like a mild introduction, ladies and gentlemen. Next time, Ian has to ask me 3 slightly more awkward questions than that, and the month after that, I'll do the same aim, and we'll just see where we go, how long we stay on air, and whether we stay friends. Okay. And Ian didn't know those questions were coming up. That's the whole point. We don't practice those questions. We just think of them, you know?
Yeah. Not that good an actor. No. Julian is, though. Have you seen his? It's not even. I was going to say a cameo. It's not even a cameo. It's a lead role in that.
In Search of the Urban Beast or whatever it's called. I forgot what it's called.
Or whatever it's called. It was your big screen debut, Lee, and you can't even remember its name.
I don't know. I'll have a look for it quickly. Unveiling the Urban Legend. That's what it's called.
Unveiling the Urban Legend. So the link to that should hopefully be in the description or in the comments. If not, just go into YouTube. I forgot the name of it. Unveiling the Urban Legend.
Yeah.
Check that out. It's not that long. It's like 10 minutes, something like that.
It's 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And the lad who plays my son played a really good part as well.
Cool. So yeah, check that out.
Hey Ian, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to, where we're doing a UK pun off, an extra one as part of the Ram Festival.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's on 2nd of June, which is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
It was going to be an actual festival, but obviously with what's going on, it's just becoming an online one. But get it watched, Ram Festival. I can't remember, is it 7 o'clock I think we're on?
Yeah, 7 p.m, yeah. We've got Craig Dealey, we've got Laura Monmouth, and we have the fantastic Noel James. Not that the other ones aren't fantastic, it's just I couldn't remember who the third person was, so I had to put another word in there.
No, I mean, Craig Dealey's one of my favourite guests we've ever had on the UK Pun Off, and he was in the first The World of Wordcraft. And it's nice to have Laura back on. I've only done one show with her in the past.
Yeah, she's not like a one-liner comic or pun comic or anything like that. But I mean, she's been on 2 maybe 3 times, and she's just totally taken to it. She's really good, really good.
Excellent. And then Noel's a really nice fella, you know what I mean? And he's a funny guy as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're putting as well, Ian. And I'm hosting it, ladies and gentlemen, so that means I'll probably shoehorn some of my jokes in at some point, but you don't have to put up with 15 of my jokes.
Yeah, hopefully at the end of the round, so you're not fucking shoehorning them in. So I'm like, right, I'm not doing that joke anymore. That happened a couple of times in the last show, I think.
Guilty.
He can't help himself. He just, something pops in and he has to get it out there. That face is going to go along with the jingle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can grab that face, put it with the jingle. He's laughing now. He's not going to be laughing when he sees the end result, man.
I'm auditioning for Max Headroom, the 21st century.
Oh, there's one for the teenagers. Again, Venn diagram, isn't it?
I know.
Teenagers watching this. So who do you think? I'm not sure if we've had this discussion before, Julian, but who do you think the youngest person, the youngest sort of regular viewer of the UK Pun Off is?
If I'm honest, it's probably Kat Molinari, who's been on the show 2 or 3 times. I think he's probably about the youngest. Or Daniel Edison. And he's been on the show a couple of times as well.
Daniel, yeah. There's Phil as well. Phil's not...
Phil who?
Phil Padgett.
Oh,
he's not really.
Isn't he? I don't know. He's younger than me, I know that much. He's younger than me.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're younger than 30 and you watch the UK Pun Off, let us know. Send us your date of birth.
Talking of bin bags, look at my nice bin bag t-shirt.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was Predator, but it must be a bin bag.
Yeah, it's a bin bag.
It looks like he's wearing a bin bag and the light's shining off there.
So it's as if the bin bag was a bit sort of scrumpled.
Yes.
Right, okay. I can't see it, but I can see where it may look.
But now that I've recognised it's Predator, all I can see is Predator.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But before then, I couldn't make out Predator.
I can't include it now.
Please remember to edit that out. Please. You should keep that bit in though. Just me going, please remember to edit that out. Then people go,
what did he say? That could be a competition. What did Ian just say? And then you just going, oh, fucking hell, man, edit that out. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to take a guess at what Ian said to make me please beg him to edit that out, then send us a DM on Facebook or on Twitter. Has to be a DM, nothing public. And we won't tell you if you're right, but if you make us laugh, you might get a prize. But you have to make us laugh.
You have to make us laugh. And a proper laugh out loud type laugh. Because I don't know about you, Julian, but I'm like a comedian's worst nightmare when it comes to being an audience member. Because I'm what I'd refer to as a shoulder chuckler.
Well, I'm what I'm referred to as a miserable bastard. So that's that.
But very few things will make me burst out with laughter. But if you can make us burst out with laughter, then you'll win some sort of prize. Prizes don't always have to be monetary in value. They can just be a blessing.
That's
literally a blessing.
Ian, by the way, mentioning monetary, by the way, what is the PayPal address?
Oh, well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Julian. The PayPal address is paypal.me/punoff. Everything that you guys contribute to the UK Pun Off via that address, it's been going along the bottom of the screen. It goes into keeping the stream free. It goes into giving the acts a few quid in their pocket for donating their time. It also helps with things like, getting prizes for you guys as well. We're slowly but surely running out of fridge magnets and we'd like to get something a little bit better this time. Got a few ideas, but they probably cost more than we're going to be getting in donations. But if you could keep sort of the lights on, the fridge running type thing, then paypal.me/punoff. Everything very much appreciated. And remember, hit friends and family when you're sending it. Otherwise, we don't get all the money and PayPal get in their pound of flesh.
Oh, good point. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Right, Ian. That was good. But Ian, we've done some interviews, haven't we?
Oh, we have. Yeah, we have indeed. And we'll be doing these every month. We might be releasing them in the future as some sort of podcast. Who knows where we're going with any of this? And we've been recording for seems like hours, and this is probably about 10 minutes into the show. But anyway, so the first interview that we've got is with someone that's coming up this Wednesday on the Ram Festival UK Pun Off. Welcome to the UK Pun Off. We've got Noel James here with us, just for a little chat, just about comedy, about puns and stuff like that. So how you doing, Noel, first and foremost?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Ian. I'm very conscious on these Zoom
things that my big forehead is very prominent, and people might mistake me for Phil Collins, but I'm not Phil Collins. But I'm doing well, thanks. I've been, going for walks and eating well, and can't complain really.
Yeah, just sort of, like, I don't know, taking care of yourself as much as you can, type thing. Yeah. Well, that's the goal. Sometimes we all kind of slip off, but yeah, that's what we try to do anyway.
Yeah. It's not easy getting older as well. Fucking hell.
Oh, it's not. It's not.
Oh, sorry, I'm swore then.
You can fucking swear if you like, man. I've not got the clicker anymore. Look at the clicker anymore. It's not a PG show. Just sort of
Techly, yes. Okay, good.
Yeah, bit of techly, yeah.
You've done that one. Those are times of it. Right. The first thing about puns is you think you've done an original one, and then you realise after a while it's probably been done a dozen times.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because I mean, I wrote a joke. I'm going to teach someone how to make tea without swearing. Yeah. They're PG tips.
Yeah. That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that sort of you praise yourself for, because this is a great little joke or whatever, and then you realise that it
is. And I think it's harder in some ways, and like I would say there's loosely two schools of verbal comedy. There's the joke, and then there's the observational. Obviously, it's not as simple as that really, but loosely speaking. And I think the people within the observational camp might look down or might be jealous of the people in the joke camp, either because they think it's not proper comedy, or because some people think, well, I wish I could do that. And in the same way, I think there's people who do jokes, and amongst them are people who write puns, who wish they could do observational humor. I mean, if you're lucky, you can do a bit of both. You know, I've tried observational routines, which I've thought were funny, because the idea is you just say something that it's an everyday observation that people can relate to. When I try it, people don't laugh, and I don't know what it is. It's almost as if you like to think you know the secret of being funny, but then you realize there's other things, types of funniness, you just can't do it,
it's just maybe about the delivery of it, or
but I think it could be the delivery. But just to go back to the idea of writing, the problem with writing jokes is then the main difficulty, I think, is to be completely original, to come up with something that you're 99.9% sure it's either totally original or it's an original twist on a gag. So especially in the case of puns, where you're talking about meanings on words and double meanings, it's very difficult. I think it is possible, because that's what we're doing on the Pun Off. But I think it's very difficult to come up with something. I remember when I first wrote my first comedy set, I tried to do it all my own gags. I was going to say something then about anyway. There's a joke by Groucho Marx where he says, I used to have what's that disease where you can't sleep? Insomnia. But I slept it off. And there's gags like that go back to the 1930s and 1920s and earlier, and people are still coming up with these things today, thinking, I wrote that, and that's fair enough, But I think that's the hard thing about writing jokes. Whereas observational stuff, it's easier to come up with something, because in your everyday life you encounter things just around the house, and you think, wow, that could be funny, and it's not been done before. But anyway,
and of course, it's like the topicality of it as well, because everyone is basically kind of doing social media routines and stuff like that now, whereas obviously 20 years ago, the concept wasn't even there.
But the example I was trying to remember then was, I once had a joke about going into the hospital because I had I had some mental health issues, and I went to see the psychotherapist, but I realized that I was in the wrong wing of the hospital, and it actually said Psycho the Rapist on the door. Now, I came up with that in the early 90s, and Jimmy Carr used the joke on the live circuit, and we discussed it, and I believed him when he said he didn't, he wrote it himself. Then he used it on his DVD, and it's funny, there was another female comedian, Brenda Gilhooly. She gave me £100 for the use of that joke on the circuit, and I thought that's brilliant. And I'm the joke, I can now see what I couldn't see at the time. Psychotherapist, anybody who reads that word and analyzes it just a little bit can see Psycho the Rapist. And then I think a few years ago I looked up online Psycho, and that joke came up from even like a couple of decades ago. Somebody had come up, and I thought, well, it just goes to show, I made £100 from nothing there. But
That's the thing about like kind of older jokes, because for one of the shows that I did, I sort of looked into how old and how much puns are kind of used, because they are sort of looked down on, like puns, or they're just dad jokes or just silly little things or whatever. But I mean, a lot of work does go into like writing a good one, and it's Shakespeare used like puns, like the ancient Egyptians, even like going back that far, used puns and hieroglyphics and things like that. So it's not even just like a relatively recent phenomenon. I mean, it's been used as a sort of communication and as humor for hundreds and hundreds, and even in some cases thousands of years. So I think that when the same idea sort of comes up and it's kind of like reused or whatever, like for example, the Psycho the Rapist type one, and as you said, you could just sort of read that word, and depending what way your mind's working, you could actually see those three words jump out at you. So I mean, do you have like a specific writing technique when you're going about creating?
Well, first of all, in order to, when I think about that question, I think about what you just said about, I mean, to be completely honest and blunt, I do think a lot of puns, I do think a lot of them are corny, and I would try and avoid a lot of what I call corny puns in my comedy set. And I even try and avoid being called a punster, and I try and avoid the label pun. Although I have to accept, I do use puns because that's what wordplay is. I like the term wordplay. I like to take wordplay and play not just on single words, but like full phrases and entire sentences. And then it's not just wordplay then, it becomes playing with like metaphors. And like there's one of my jokes is I once made a cake in the shape of a boil. It was a boiled cake, but it was actually in the shape of a boil, a big boil. So I put some icing on it that looked like ointment for the boil. And then I put a cherry in the shape of a fly, and the fly in the ointment was the cherry on the cake. That's like, and what, but yeah, what you're right. A lot of comedians today, some comedians look down on puns, but even historically in comedy, I mean, you're right. Shakespeare used a lot of wordplay, but like Monty Python made a big thing of not using puns ever. And Ricky Gervais despises wordplay. But then if you look at Monty Python, and I'm a big Monty Python fan, there is a sketch where they say, nobody expects the Spanish, I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition. And then a character walks in and says, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Well, what is that if not playing? It's not playing on a word in a pun, strictly a pun sense, but it's playing on a verbal concept, and it's taking it literally, and that's what a lot of. So, like in my joke writing, I would say not all my jokes are puns or wordplay, but a lot of them are, and I think when you look at that type of humor, you're trying to, you're looking at different meanings, and you're taking one of the meanings literally. So I'll come up with jokes which could be puns or not, but I'll often come up with them from conversations with friends. If I go for a walk and somebody phones me and they'll say a phrase, like somebody might say, "Do you know that buzz you get?" And that's the other thing. I think I'm slightly autistic or something, because apparently autistic people often hear these phrases and idioms and you know, just things that most people would say, like you like to keep the wolf from the door, you know, and I'll hear that and I'll go, wait a minute, did you just say that? Or, you know, that buzz you get. What when you're picked up by a swarm of bees?
Yeah.
Or, you know, I had a job to keep the wolf from the door. Well, I was working in a silver bullet factory, you know, who's keeping the wolf from the door, you know. So you get these phrases and they immediately spark off ideas. And I've also always been influenced, I suppose, by films and horror films and sci-fi and the grotesque and, you know, Roald Dahl's Tales of the Unexpected, that type of thing often comes into my jokes, which is perhaps why some people refer to my comedy as surreal comedy, because I like the grotesque, you know. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I'm just kind of thinking, what would you? You've talked about.
Well, I'm trying to think of a joke I came up with recently, because I just did a thing with you, the buzzwords, where we were doing 10-minute sets, and I was listening to the comedians. But even in the preamble before the show started, you had a clicker to count every time somebody said the word fuck, and then Kevin said it's a cricket clicker, and then somebody said it's what's used to count the runs, and instantly in my head I thought of diarrhea and runs, and how can you count the run? I don't count my runs. I just look at it as it flows away or something like that, you know. But I mean, if you come up with a single joke, but I try and come up with something that can tie into something else. So then you'll have not a story, but you'll have a couple of sentences, like they do the joke about going to the hairdressers and asking for a number 2, and I came out with a piece of shit on my head, and then I might throw in, oh dear. People don't even know that word because it's a posh word. Oh dear, it's a posh word for shit, right? So I say, oh dear, you know, and then I complained to the barber because I was undeterred, and you know, which I now know that the comedian Andy White does a song in his set where he does the same pun, undeterred, with he has a turd on his head. So. But I know when I came up with it, I'd not heard it before, you know. But so you know. But then you try and tie them in one after each other, so it's a bit more substantial than just one joke.
And just quick fire.
Yeah, it's quick fire, but it's a little. It's like a mini story. But then if I come up with what I regard as like when I've, you know, maybe once in a blue moon, I'll come up with a joke which I think is. You know, by my standard, I'd say it's excellent, and it's a standalone joke. So I would say, for me, I used to be in a band called One Armed Leopard. The drummer went deaf. You know, I think that's a joke, and I know some fans say they like that joke, and you know that actually. But then I follow up that joke with saying we did actually try to retrain him how to play the drums. With the aid of vibrations through the stage, and it was going well until one night there was an earthquake halfway through the show, and he took it as a cue for a drum solo. He's still there. See, now that's good that you laugh, because that's not wordplay. Then that next bit, And my girlfriend also laughed at that bit, which is why I kept that in, because you know I have more confidence when I do come up with a clever wordplay than a joke which is just describing a situation. But that one is, and I keep it in, and you know, it's a nice mixture then.
So are there any kind of jokes that you've come up with or written? Because you've just said you've had that kind of the moment. I think we've all been there, where you've written something and you've thought, this will make me a millionaire, this joke. And when you've tried it out, nothing. It just completely falls flat. Any ones that are your personal favourites that you thought that's a really good joke, but it's just it doesn't work.
Well, there are a couple of those jokes. Yeah, I would say there's some jokes I like, which I know they just wouldn't be big laughs. So, for example, and I haven't worked out exactly how to say it, but there's one about I was in the park watching my nephew playing in the sandbox, and then I saw another kid pissing in the sandbox. So I took my nephew away, and he was complaining. He said, "Why are you taking me away from the sand?" I said, "Well, the tide's come in, you know." But I tell you a good example of what you just said. This is a joke that I really like, but I don't think people will laugh at it. Is my father was an incurable romantic. He fell in love with his life support machine. That to me, that's a clever joke. I like it, but another joke would be, which I quite like, which is more accessible, is I used to run my own business as a food sampler. Unfortunately, the tax office closed me down because there's no accounting for taste. That's clever. That's but that's kind of people get that more. It's difficult. It's not easy being a comedian when you realize you can't just I try and write jokes that I personally find funny. I would never. Well, that's why we all try and do our own stuff rather than use old jokes. But at the same time, you realize you've got to account, the mentality of the audience, or what they're used to, or what their level of getting, you've got to write it so that you can convey it, so that they get it, I mean, having said that, I have thrown in a couple of old jokes. Like when I did that buzzwords with you just now, I threw in the joke about Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal the Cannibal. Well, a man's got to eat. Now, I heard that somewhere. I can't remember who told it. I thought that was quite good joke,
Yeah, so I mean, so I know what you're talking about, sort of making like your set accessible to the audience.
Yeah.
So do you have sort of, I don't know if there's a different room that you've been booked for? You think, right, well, no one there is going to get ABC material. I need to do this sort of different set. Like maybe if it's going to be a rowdier crowd, or a younger crowd, or an older crowd, and sort of hen stag type crowds. So would you always go in with your set, or do you have sort of different ones that you say, right, I'm playing this room, I need to do this kind of material?
Well, I'm afraid to say, Ian, I'm fucked if the audience, and I have played really, really diverse crowds in all manner of venues. I would say the last really difficult audience I had was I did a cruise ship. I've only ever done cruise ship twice. And, well, I've done a series of gigs both times. And I found them, because in comedy, there's this adage, you must never blame the audience. But gradually over the years, to be honest, I've come to realize that, you can't put the blame on yourself all the time. I'm a bit like the Tim Vine approach of comedy. I doubt if Tim Vine has got an alternative set lined up. I do know comedians, a guy called John Newton. He apparently will have an old style club comedy set if in the event the audience is me. What I do, rather than change the jokes, I'll change the energy. I mean, I can turn up at a workman's club in North England and I can gauge it, say, especially if I'm on later in the show, which gives you a chance to see how the other acts are going down, and you contrast your style to their style, and it gives you a chance to the audience kind of are ready for you, even though they may not be your type of audience. But if you're chucked on first, there's all sorts of factors I think are crucial in comedy: the lighting, the sound, the way people are seated, all those things. I find I try and tinker with them. If I think it's going to be a difficult audience, those things can improve it. But if I'm not allowed to tinker with those things, then what I might try is just to chat at the beginning of the set, say hello to a few people in the front.
Yeah.
But no, it's really difficult if you've got, like I did one for a Christmas show in a hotel with a lot of elderly people, and I wasn't told I shouldn't swear. And I'm not really a big swearer, but that was difficult because they just get offended, and also you get some audiences, they talk amongst themselves during your set, but they still want you to carry on, which is to me they're not playing the game, because comedy is about listening and giving your attention. But there's some old school audiences, they want you to carry on going even though they're talking amongst themselves, and then if you get angry about that, they don't like you. So I think basically, I'm one of those comedians, as it says on my chortle review, if they don't get me, but I would say I have learned how to play the room over the years and how to appeal. I can tell, if there's a difficult crowd, it's usually because of one element or even one person in the crowd. So you sort of single in on those people, or you hone in on something. Like, I had one guy once, as soon as I went on stage in a gig in Peterborough, there was a bloke down the front, he started doing sheep noises because of my Welsh accent. But I knew that he was trying to get peer, he was trying to get admiration of his mates around the table. And I could see his mates were listening to me in a way and laughing. So I just plowed on. So often I just plow on, carry on, and then I get people on my side. And at the end of the gig, this guy was left on his own. In fact, I could tell he was upset. He was kind of he had a chip on his shoulder about something, and he complained to me in the interval right to my face about one of my jokes. Of course, I didn't bring up the fact that he'd done sheep noises, which I hate, but you just have to go with these things. So the short answer is, if in the rare occasion I can't do anything to win the audience over, I'm fucked, basically. That's it.
You just sort of need to do your time, and tomorrow's another big time.
I always try and do my time. Yeah, definitely.
So what would you say is your proudest moment in comedy?
That's a good question.
I guess what it might have been, but what is your personal proudest moment?
What's your guess then, Ian?
Well, there's a little ITV show that you appeared on and did not badly at.
Yeah, I would say I did think about this today, the answer to this, and I think I have done looking back, I've done a lot of shows but it's not like people say there's a buzz from doing comedy, but I think after you've done it a while, the buzz sort of sinks into your nervous system and you get used to doing comedy. In fact, it'll be weird after this pandemic to go back on stage, because it'll be more like what it's like to do it for the first time. And I think I've done a few gigs over the years anyway, where like I did a gig in the Grand Theatre in Swansea in 1999. It was the first time they'd done comedy. That was a good gig. It was a nice big, I like doing, when you do a plush theatre, with proper red seats and boxes and things, and it feels like that's where comedy belongs, But I would say that your guess is correct, because when I did the semi-final of Britain's Got Talent, it was completely live. So it was a make or break, it was a do or die situation. And so not only were there like 3,000 people in the theatre, and it was actually the Apollo Theatre. So I've actually been live at the Apollo without playing live at the Apollo. So fuck you, off the curb or whatever. Oops, sorry.
We'll edit that out. It's all right though.
Oh, good. Are you going to cut that out? I'll say it again. Fuck you. So anyway, so I've actually been live at the Apollo without actually playing live at the Apollo, and when I went out on stage to do that semi-final, I just really didn't know if I could do it, and it was just a case of it wasn't like being nervous. It was just like I couldn't even remember my material, but then I just told myself, you just can't worry about it. You just got to walk out there and do what you do normally. And it was almost as if I really was, I was making use of the 25 years of comedy that I performed and throwing it into that, basically a 4-minute set on a big stage with millions of people watching me live. And also it's like the vulnerability. It's not like, because I'm sure you've probably played a gig where there's TV cameras, and I find that's an advantage because usually the people in the room are in a good mood. The TV cameras make them want to laugh. But when you're on, generally, Britain's Got Talent can be quite, it can make you feel vulnerable because they show the little film of you, at home, and Simon Cowell is there and all that. So you don't know if they're going to trip you up or not. So the fact is, because it's live, the first round wasn't, but because the semi-final is round, once the camera starts rolling and you start performing, they've got to let you do it. And that's great. And I did it, and I managed to, instead of just standing still and being static, I grabbed the microphone and walked around. And I know that sounds like just an easy thing to do, but I'd never done Britain's Got Talent. I'd never been at the Apollo. I'd never been in front of millions of television viewers. So the fact that I did that, like I would in a comedy club, it was just made it more dynamic and more exciting, and it was more enjoyable for me as well. And I think it was and people in the audience, there was a few people clapping at some of the wordplay, and that was great. So I think I held it together, and I just felt that it was a good platform to show what I can do, and it's there on YouTube. So that was probably my proudest moment in comedy, I'd say.
Yeah, well, it was a great showing without a doubt. And I think it was quite important as well because I think at that time Britain's Got Talent had quite the reputation amongst the comedy community for basically shitting on comedians. But that's I think in some way, sort of you going on and sort of just doing what you do, especially with kind of like wordplay, one-liners, puns, all that sort of stuff. I think it maybe did shift the focus from what the producers were wanting out of the show to actually what comedians could actually give the show.
Yeah.
So I think, you've certainly done a lot of work in sort of changing that kind of perception.
Oh, that's good. I hope so. There was a lot of comedians that year, and I think 3 or 4 got into the final. And I got the sneaking suspicion that they wanted a comedian to win it that year. And I think because of that, I don't know any of this. I'm just theorizing that they gave the comedians more fair play because of all the I think you're right. They edit the program, and they've done it since then. But they told me that year, and they've told other people that year, that they'd stopped they stopped framing people to look stupid, if you see what I mean. But I think that the fact is, Ant and Dec were there, and during performances, the camera often cuts to Ant and Dec. But that year, I think it was Ant wasnsich available because he had problems in his personal problems. There was only one of them, and I think the whole atmosphere made it more. It was more like the comedy. It was great to see comedy on that program because it's such a difficult program because of all the like in the Opportunity Knocks days. I would have loved to have been on that because you just stand there and the camera's on you. Whereas in BGT, the camera is on you, but it's also on the judges. The judges are the stars. It's on Ant and Dec. There's all these distractions. and you get so annoyed, especially as a comedian, because you have to do the chat beforehand. Now, if you're a dancer or a singer or a large, big performer, once you've done the preamble chat with the judges, you transform straight away. But when you're a comedian, you're basically doing the preamble chat, and then they say, where you go, they say, okay, you can start. And you're just being the preamble chat still, because that's the style of comedy. And it's a really difficult one to, I was really worried about that when I did it. I mean, I had no way of knowing. I know since then, the year after, my mate, Steve Best, who does visual comedy, he went on it, and he did well. He told me he did well, and they cut a lot of his set out, and they put little piano music, like sad dramatic music, and they made it look like he died on stage, you know. Luckily, they didn't put it on YouTube, because he insisted, you know, that's not happening. And but yeah, so it was a sort of obstacle course, really. But I appreciate what you said, though, about getting that type of humor out there. Yeah.
Yeah, the more we can get it out, the merrier, I think, man. Well, listen, Noel James, thank you very much for coming on and chatting with us about comedy.
I thought you were going to ask me about my favourite jokes, Ian.
Right, let's get on then. What is your favourite jokes? What is your favourite joke that you've written?
Let me get my list out. Okay, no. Oh, by the way, the one joke that the people behind the scenes in Britain's Got Talent wanted me to cut out was, funny enough, they wouldn't let me do jokes about dyslexia or other jokes because of fear of complaints. Because if you have anything referring to illness, unless I had it myself, I wouldn't be allowed. But the one joke I had the trouble with was the visual joke. And the joke was, it's my impression of a frog. So I get this, and I saw it. And it really stressed me out, because I'd already submitted the script and they knew it was in it, and I did the rehearsal, and then after rehearsal they said, oh, we're not sure about that, and they wouldn't tell me the reason why. They just said it they said it didn't land. In other words, the joke doesn't work properly. And then I knew, because I do it in gigs up and down the country, I knew it would get a good reaction. And also it's like a kid's joke, so it adds to the family thing, you know. And then the floor manager told me in secret, without the director knowing, you know, he said, you should just do what you feel like doing, just go for it. And I did it, and it got a round of applause. But that was really stressful. But yeah, I know you want to get on, but I have thought about a few jokes, a couple of good jokes that I like. I think Tim Vine writes some great jokes, and one of my favorite Tim Vine jokes is, and I think I love this joke because it's so short, and I think it's really difficult to come up with a short joke that is really good. And his joke was, he said, exit signs, they're on the way out. Fantastic, brilliant joke. I also do like that classic joke, the one about when is a door not a door, when it's a jar. Now, it's so easy to take these jokes for granted, and you forget that somebody actually wrote that somewhere in some place. And I'd love to know who wrote that joke, because, you know, if you go back 100 years, jokes like that, they probably weren't even around, you know. So somewhere in the early 20th century, people started, and but one of my I think there is a, no, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to end on that one, because that's sorry, man. I ruined this here. No, okay.
Not at all. Not at all. It's been really good talking to you, man. Get some really good kind of insight, and just what it is to be like Noel James, a comedian type thing. And I reckon we could talk for hours, but
yeah, we could.
But the monthly show is only so long. But I mean, we can get back together and have another chat pretty soon.
Yeah, and make sure everybody to look out for my clip on YouTube, because I made it myself. This is my my clip on YouTube. Yeah, okay. That's one of my favorite jokes as well. I forgot. Yeah, no, Ian, it's been great talking to you. And, you know, I look forward to all the money coming in from this.
Oh, yeah. There's not even a QR site. There's not even a QR code down at the bottom of the screen.
Shit.
So, but anyway, Noel James, thank you very much.
Ian McDonald, cheers. Pleasure. Thank you.
Right. What we've got is we've got some interviews. Some are longer interviews. Some are sort of just quick questions. Who's on the quick questions one this week?
It's going to be someone else that's coming up on the Ram Festival. It is Craig Daly.
Right. Good. So we've got Noel James and we've got Craig Daly. You're going to find out a bit more about them. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to you.
Takeaway as a treat. I love cooking, but sometimes there's nothing better than a dirty takeaway. I think Stan Laurel. Amazing. I like getting a particular train from Birmingham to London, and it's whenever I've got it, it's always empty, and I get a seat to myself and a table and a plug and Wi-Fi. But I won't give you the name of the company because it's advertising. But yeah, cheap train travel to London. Digital watch for performing because I've got a countdown on it that vibrates when I've nearly finished. Otherwise, I've got an analog, a battery fake wind-up analog finger watch, as the kids call it. Soul music, particularly like 60s and 70s funk and soul. Never seen a Harry Potter, and I've only seen Star Wars when it originally came out. So I'll say Star Wars. Dogs, they're better kissers. Really well done toast, in particular crusty bread with loads of butter and Marmite. Superheroes. I know they're a bit boring, but you know they're winners. They get the sequels. Melon. I love the rain. I don't like being too hot. Favorite weather is sunny winter days, but if I had to choose between those two, I think the rain. Escalators to go up, stairs to come down. Thank you. That's a war crime of a topping. No.
Anyway, what about a quick recap for what people have got to look forward to from the UK Pun Off production team in the next couple of weeks, Ian?
Well, within the next couple of weeks, again, we've got the 2nd of June, we've got the Ram Festival UK Pun Off. Then Wednesday, the 9th of June, we've got the World of Wordcraft. The tickets will be available pretty soon because it is a ticketed event because it's through Zoom. Snap them up while you can. They are limited. On the 20th of June, Sunday the 20th, is going to be the next Out Punched show. We've got some great guests on for that. Hopefully you caught the first one. If not, go back and have a look at it. It's great fun. And then a week later, on Sunday the 27th of June, we are back with the UK Pun Off main show. So we're going back to Sundays at 7 p.m. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell anyone that will listen and donate. So that's the 27th of June, 7 p.m. for the Pun Off. All the dates will be on our Facebook page. Make up a little poster with all our dates there. And maybe same time next month, we'll have another one of these with another great interview. And me and Julian recording stuff for about 3 hours, but only managing to make it down to about a 15-minute show. So yes.
There you go. That sounds like we've got a lot to offer. So please support the UK Pun Off. whether it's with the UK Pun Off itself, whether it's with the World of Wordcraft, whether it's without Punched, and whether it's for the RAM Festival, most of the stuff is either free or pay what you want. So you'll never have to actually pay to get to a link, but any donations will be welcome. And remember, for the World of Wordcraft, you do have to purchase a link. Is it from Eventbrite?
Eventbrite, it'll be up on you.
Right, okay, but it is free, but get in, book your ticket, and let's get a nice sort of audience for the comedians as well, because there were some great jokes last time, and I want the comedians to come on and feel that they're telling their jokes to a good audience who will give them a good receptive response.
Right, so we will see you next month.
Radio.
Hopefully with a jingle from Julian.